And tonight I thought I would give you a tour of what I've been doing outside in the garden. So normally I share all about the inside of our home, but this is our second spring and summer at the farmhouse, and I've been doing a lot of work outside and I really wanted to share it. I've always loved gardening. I wouldn't call myself an expert gardener by any means. It's just something I've always enjoyed, and I've always had some sort of small garden. I feel like even when I was living in an apartment, I would always start seeds. They wouldn't often make it, but I've just always enjoyed growing gardens and house plants, and so last year was our first spring at the farmhouse, and we just had a lot going on, so I wasn't going to have a garden at all and realized I couldn't do that. So I just had a very, very small garden, and this year I was going to do the same thing, but I've been able to work from home due to the pandemic, and so I took it as the opportunity to create the garden space that I really wanted for our farm. And I'm sitting in my greenhouse. It's still a work in progress, but my dad started building this for me shortly after we moved in, I think, or last summer. Um, I found these windows for free on Craigslist before we even bought our house, and got them, saved them, and then my dad designed this greenhouse for me using them. Um, so we still have to put the walls up and things like that. There's still a lot that has to be done to the greenhouse and the garden area. And normally I share all of the progress on my Instagram, Diana Marie Home, but I feel like even though there's still so much to do, I have done so much, and there was just so much that I want to share that I thought it would be easier if I just made a video um, here, all in one spot. Also, gardening, as much as I enjoy it, it can be really hard at times, and I've found this whole community of gardening on YouTube, and it just gives me so much inspiration. I especially love Jess at Roots and Refuge. I've been watching so many of her videos and just learning so much, and I've really, in the last video I was just watching, I can't remember what one it was, but she was saying how, you know, she'll make videos just of weeding or pruning her plants because you really can't undervalue inspiration, and how watching others in their garden can inspire you in your own garden to do those things that are tough and aren't always fun. And it clicked, and she was so right, because I've been finding myself watching her YouTube videos at night and becoming inspired and recharged to get out in my garden and do that hard work that maybe I don't really want to do, but is going to allow me to do the things I want to do. For example, filling wheelbarrows full of dirt to fill my raised beds. That's hard work and part of gardening, but not really the fun part. Anyways, so I thought, you know, I want to show you guys what I've been working on and the progress that I make along the way. I want to be able to document that for myself, and you know, I want to show how you can start off gardening and just kind of work your way to knowing more and learning along the way. So this might serve as inspiration to someone else out there. So yeah, with all of that being said, I'm really excited to show you what I've done so far, and also plans that I have for this space as time goes on. I'll start with just a quick tour of the inside of the greenhouse as it is. So I guess I'll start with the outside. Here is the front of the greenhouse. You can see the structure's up, but we still have, you know, the walls put on. I want to do some window boxes right here. Just yesterday I did this walkway. Still have to fill in the sides, but really happy with how that turned out. And then last weekend I actually did the floor in the greenhouse. That was a huge project, and the first like brick flooring or patio that I've ever put in. So I was really sore after that. The day after I did the patio outside, which I'll show you in just a second, but inside it's pretty open right now. I just have my furniture, my patio furniture in here temporarily. So inside the greenhouse, it's all just temporary right now. I have my patio furniture, this little table that I recently picked up from an antique store with a lot of clay pots that I've been collecting over time. Yeah, just a lot of things that I've been collecting over time that will probably go in the greenhouse eventually, but the patio furniture will go outside in that patio, and my plans for inside the greenhouse will be to build shelves on these 3 walls that I'll be able to just work on, and then some shelves to store pots along those 3 walls as well. You can see the sheep in the background. And then a very narrow island in the middle that will be another workspace. So I really want to utilize this space as best as I can for just starting seeds and potting plants, really. Take a break to look at the sheep. I have quite the view from the greenhouse. Back here is where Kurt stores all of his farm implements. There's Ada right there. Hi, Ada. And then Teddy is our brown lamb, and Agnes is the other white lamb back there. Kurt's over there with Ari, our Great Pyrenees. Nala's hiding. This is our big mound of dirt that I was using to fill all my raised beds. It's pretty peaceful on the farm. While I'm over here, I'll show you this whole area. Pretty much from here to the fence and back to that pile of dirt, there are about 150 dahlias planted. This is my first year growing dahlias. I'm really excited. The chickens already destroyed some of them. They like to just follow behind me and destroy everything that I'm working on. So they've dug a couple up. They might still grow, but it doesn't look like a whole lot right now, but I'm really hoping that in a few months this whole area will just be covered in really beautiful flowers. Something else that I did near the greenhouse is I planted these hostas along the edge on both sides. My mom gave those to me. She split her hostas and gave me a bunch. There's a bag of mulch sitting next to a couple bags of mulch, so that's a project on the list to do. A lot of projects. Alright, I'm walking over to the garden area. You'll see we have this premier fencing in because, like I said, the chickens were just destroying everything. I would plant seeds and they would dig them up and eat them, so we have this premier fencing. We're trying it out. It's working pretty good so far, so fingers crossed. I'm actually standing on the other patio that I did last weekend. This was the second patio. It's about 10 by 12. Again, I don't have experience in making patios. It's just something that I really wanted to do out here. Kurt's brother has worked in landscaping for a few summers and had some tips, so he shared those with me. And Kurt and his brothers also did the foundation screening with the rocks and tamping that down. That was probably the hardest part. So yeah, that is our outdoor patio. I plan on moving that patio furniture that you guys saw inside out here and getting a little fire pit. So this should be, and putting some Edison lights up, should just be a cozy outdoor space that I'm really looking forward to being able to use. But what I've been spending a lot of time on are the patios, and well, by patios I mean the walkway, greenhouse floor, and then this patio, and then the raised beds. I built 10 raised beds and filled them, and all but one are planted, so you can kind of see those. and then there's a couple more here, but I'm gonna walk through and show you each one and what I've planted in them so far. Yeah, and my thoughts on that. So when you walk into this garden area, the first garden box that you see, or raised bed, is my herb garden. There's a lot of perennials in here. I'm hoping that they'll come back year after year. I should also mention that I made a whole blog post and tutorial on how to do these raised beds, so I'll link that in the description if you're interested. But what I have in my herb bed, in this corner I have oregano, thyme is in that corner, some basil plants throughout, lavender here. I think these are chives. They came from Kurt's grandma. A rosemary plant, sage, and then cilantro. That's not doing too great. I also think now that oh no, there's some parsley down here, but I'm not sure if that's gonna make it or not. So I planted all the plants that I had, and then in all of the empty spaces, I planted things. So something I'm learning with raised beds is to make use of as every square inch that you can. So there are some onions scattered through there. There are basil seeds, and then in the corners I also planted sunflowers and zinnias just because I really want there to be flowers throughout the garden. So I did that in all the raised beds actually. I had wanted to do a whole flower garden just past the raised beds, but we're in zone 6B in upstate New York, and it's June, I don't even know what day it is, early June, and I just felt like it was starting to be a little too late to start a huge flower bed from seed. By the time I got to planting, it would be at least 2 weeks. This bed is going to be my salad bed. So I have a bunch of different lettuces planted in here along with spinach. You can't see anything right now. I just planted them the other day, but again, there's flowers in the corners. This is going to be my flower garden bed. This is the one that I need to finish up planting. Right now I just have these, what are these called? I just have the silver dust in the corners right now. I got this plant from a greenhouse. It didn't have a tag. I'm really curious what that is. It looks really pretty. So we'll see how that grows. I have some dahlias back there that I wanted to plant in here. And then I'll just do a lot of sunflowers, zinnias, and cosmos because I found those are some pretty easy flowers to grow when you're like me and starting out and just want to be successful at things. I definitely recommend those three: sunflowers, cosmos, and zinnias. Over here I have my bean garden. So there are rows of bush beans, green and purple. Okay, moving over to this garden bed, I have peppers, mostly green peppers, I believe, sweet peppers. And then in between the rows of peppers on this side, I have radishes. This is my first year growing radishes, and I think I have one coming up. So I found these from watching garden YouTube videos. They're one of the quickest growing foods from seed. I think they're ready to harvest in about 25 days. And they're good for taking up space in raised beds. So while these peppers are growing up, those radishes are growing down. So hopefully I like radishes because I'm not really sure. On the other side, I have carrots growing, and I'm really curious how these will grow. I had a seed of carrots from 2015 and thought I could either throw them out or throw them in the garden and see what happens. And I'm not quite sure if these are weeds or carrots, but if I keep doing these garden tours, I will let you know, because that would be pretty cool. But this year, I've really just worked to get the garden built, get the raised beds in, get them filled, and put plants in. I started some from seed. They didn't all make it. So I substituted a lot with just plants from a greenhouse. Next year, my goal is to really put a lot of thought into seeds, try some heirloom varieties, and expand more in that way next year when my focus won't be on actually building the space to plant. In this bed next to it, I have some more peppers with
green zucchini in the corners. I'm curious how this will work out. It's a little bit of a trial. So squash plants usually take up more space, but the zucchinis don't vine as much as other squash. So I'm hoping they kind of just have enough room in those corners and I'm still able to utilize space in the center with my peppers. I have more radish in this bed. And then I'm also trying okra, which I have right here from seed. I'm not sure how this will grow in New York. This is something that I learned about from watching Roots and Refuge YouTube. I'm really excited to try it. And yeah, I'll let you guys know what ends up happening. In this bed, I have potatoes growing. I had a bag of just regular white cooking potatoes in our pantry that all sprouted, and instead of throwing them away, I put them in this bed. I am not sure how this will work out. I've heard mixed reviews about planting tomatoes from the store, especially if they're not organic, which mine were not. I decided to just go ahead and try it, so we'll see what happens. I also have a bed of corn, which I'm really excited about. You can see the corn's growing really well. It's going to need to be weeded. I started to weed it the other day and noticed that I was pulling up some corn seeds that were just starting to sprout, so I decided to wait until I could see where they all were. But I'm really excited about this corn. I have okra in this corner, and yeah, like I said, I have some sunflowers and zinnias scattered in the corners of all the beds to hopefully just give some color in here when the garden starts filling in. Back here are my tomato beds. So this one and then the one next to it. I need to finish these structures. I'm going to be putting beams in the top to hold it together a bit more. But my idea here with these tall structures is to be able to tie a string to the top of the poles, and then the string will act as like a trellis for the tomatoes that I can tie them to support them. I've done cages in the past, and I don't like how the cages, it makes it difficult to prune the leaves out, and my tomatoes end up just getting overgrown in them, so cages don't work for me personally. Last year I tried staking them, so each plant had its own stake, and that worked pretty well. My stakes were too short, but it was just a lot of effort for me to tie with twine the stem up the stake as quickly as they're growing. So I'm hoping each one having a string and being able to just wrap it around the string will be a bit easier and more manageable. But I have some beefsteak tomatoes, Roma tomatoes, and cherry tomatoes in here, in both tomato beds actually. And then in this one, I planted onions down the center. And along the edges, since I had these structures to support the tomatoes, I'll be adding wood beams or little wood slats across this to create trellises. And I have pole beans growing on both sides of this bed. Pole beans and also, I believe, snow peas. A variety of pea as well that will trellis. And then over here, more tomatoes. I don't have anything planted in the middle yet because I'm going to do a succession plant of radish. So probably in a week or two I'll plant some radish seeds so that they're ready at different times. And then on the edge of this bed I have cucumbers. So I'm going to try for the first time trellising those. Again, the trellis isn't there yet, but I'm going to be building that. So I'll be trying to trellis those cucumbers up there. And then a work in progress still are these little mini raised beds, which desperately need attention. I need to mow around them, but this is where I'm gonna install some more of these little mini beds, and these are for my pumpkins and vining squash so that they don't take up a ton of room in the beds. They'll have some more space out here, so I'll be adding more here and then behind that patio. And yeah, I'm curious to see how this trellising for the vining squash or the cucumbers will go, because if that works well, I might end up adding some more trellises in this area. Here's a tray of squash that I started from seed, which since I've done that, I've learned it's better to direct sow squash. They don't like to be transplanted, but live and learn. I've been learning a lot as I've been doing it. And my mint plant, I have a sweet mint plant that I got from a nursery, and I decided to put it in this large clay pot instead of my herb bed because mint will take over. So my hope is that it will just take over this pot and live happy in there instead of taking over my herb bed. I didn't want that to happen. Here's a view from farther away of all of the beds that we just walked through. Just so you can kind of get an idea. The beds are over there in the greenhouse here. So some immediate plans are just to finish planting what I want to plant for this season so that can start growing. But I also have a lot of finishing work that I need to do. I need to fill dirt in along the walkway. I need to level things out, get grass planted, hang lights, you know, a lot of the finishing details at this point, which is really exciting because I've just spent so much time and energy into really building this space to be how I wanted it. None of this was here before. Thank you so much for hanging out with me tonight and just taking a tour of my garden space. Hopefully you find this interesting. I'm not sure. I've been spending so much time out here that I don't know if sharing this is boring or if someone might enjoy this, but I hope it inspires at least one person out there and just shows you that you can really start gardening without fully knowing what you're doing. It's okay to learn along the way. The worst, you never know what will happen unless you try. My attitude is I can, you know, be intimidated and not plant anything and definitely not grow anything, or I can just try. I can watch YouTube videos, I can learn along the way, make mistakes along the way, and the worst thing that can happen is things that I plant won't grow, but the best thing that could happen would be something might grow and I might get to harvest a vegetable that I grew myself in some cases in my garden from seed, in others from started plants, but in any case I grew it and I put that time and energy into growing it, and I'm learning and growing along the way as well. So I will see what you guys think about this, and if you enjoy it, I'll make more so we can see the progress of this space throughout the summer. Hopefully it's good. Hopefully it grows. You can follow along for more daily updates on Instagram. My Instagram handle is @DianaMarieHome. I share a lot more behind the scenes there, and just daily updates of our farm, our fixer-upper life, home decor, and now a lot more farm and garden. Yeah, thank you so much for watching, and hit subscribe if you want to keep following along.